We need to know what we do well so that we can present our best selves and talk openly about, I don't do that thing as well. That doesn't make me less than. It just means my strengths are in another area. And so people want to be accepted, but we have to accept ourselves too.
My background was not in marketing, but I'm running an organization that has a significant responsibility for communication and promotion. So I need to let those people do what they do best so that we can have the right outcome.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Inner Work, the Collective Growth Podcast. I'm Marianne Means-Dufresne, and I'm so excited to have my good friend, Bob Jameson, here with us today. He is the president and CEO of Visit Fort Worth and has helped lead our city, our great city of Fort Worth, through record-breaking tourism and economic recovery efforts of the last several years. We all know it's been quite a few years over these last years. Over 12 million visitors?
Yes.
In recent years, Bob, which is
That's
absolutely
right.
incredible. And the Visit Fort Worth also includes the Fort Worth Sports Commission, the Film Commission, the Hear Fort Worth Music Office, and of course our iconic Fort Worth Herd. And the thing that I know and appreciate so much about you, Bob, is your calm demeanor, your relational approach internally in your organization, and then also in the community. And that this is part of your leadership approach. And that's what I'm excited to get to talk with you about today on Inner Work. So thank you for being here.
Well, thank you for that very kind introduction. And I appreciate the opportunity to spend some time with you. You have been such a great resource for us in a variety of efforts that we've undertaken here. And I know most specifically the work you did with us as we were trying to, rethink about the Fort Worth herd and look forward. While the story we're telling is one of looking backwards, we were also talking about how does that great experience, continue to reflect the growth in the Stockyards district as well as our city, and how do we appropriately tell that story? And you were so helpful in coming in and doing the work that you do to help us think that through. So,
thank you. It was such a joy, and that you all thought about the historical relevance, of course, how to shape it for the future, and that is resonating. The approach that you're taking, and the streets are full of people wanting to have this authentic experience that you create.
well, they do, and and it's amazing because if you want to hear, voices, and accents from people from all sorts of different places, that you can guarantee that's what you'll find in the Stockyards day in and day out. But beyond that, there is a great draw from people all across the country that, that want a bit of the West, the old West, the new West, but that is kind of an iconic representation of our country's history, and it's was lived and is lived here in Texas and in Fort Worth, and so here's an opportunity for people to take a little bit of their travel time and see that and feel it and experience it.
That's right. And we know one of the top tourist attractions, of course, in Fort Worth is the Stockyards area and the Fort Worth herd. But that's just a piece of what you do. I mean, your tourism across Fort Worth, and we really have so many incredible attractions and things to offer, and which means that it's easy for your focus to be splintered. How do you really look at the whole spectrum of what you need to accomplish for Visit Fort Worth?
Well, it's part of getting that done is having good people around you, so that you have the right talent and the right energy being applied to different aspects of the work that we're tasked with doing.
Yeah.
But also that you have thoughtful individuals that, that alongside, myself
Mhm.
can step back and say, all right, so, how do we look down the road?
Yeah.
How does this all play out? How do we anticipate what we're going to be doing? And so there is, there is a need for a strategic focus for the work that we do in order to
Mhm.
continue to tell a tourism message about the city.
Yeah.
But there's also opportunistic moments that you have to be able to respond to
Mhm.
as well, because things happen in the moment,
Yeah.
and they can be great things. 2 years
Mhm.
ago, who knew that TCU's football team would be playing in a national championship football game? Who
Yes.
knew?
Yeah.
But
Right.
there we were, and it
Mhm.
was a great season, and it was a great buildup. It's a disappointing end, but it was a great moment, and it brought
Yeah.
a lot of attention to the city. And so,
Sure did.
in the moment, it's how did we support TCU, and how did we attack, make sure that people connected the university with our community.
That's right. That's right. And seizing that opportunity
That's right.
and leveraging it for the future. That
That's right.
you were our longtime the icon in Fort Worth, the Renaissance Worthington Hotel, longtime general manager there, and that in the hospitality business, as many listeners well know, and as you well know, intense in terms of the operations. I mean, you were cutting your teeth there around managing people and equipping and empowering people, and then had this transition to a very different type of role. What was that like for you as a leader?
Well, and it's interesting that you bring that up in the sense that my long tenure at the Worthington was really in two parts. And the first part was, working for, the Bass family,
Yeah,
who and the developers of Sundance Square and a lot of that north end of downtown, which included the hotel itself.
yeah.
And and I was running a hotel company for them. And
Mhm.
so it was a one hotel company. We had a couple of other restaurant um, business units that were attached to it.
Yeah.
But that was really, the in the first 14 years I was at the hotel, I was learning really what it meant to be running a business,
Mhm.
and having nearly ultimate responsibility for every decision that was made. And
Right.
and so that was a great experience. That was a great learning curve for me.
Sure.
Um, um, and then the second 14 years, Marriott International came in as a manager, and they retained me in that role.
Mhm. Smart of them.
And well, I was grateful for the opportunity to continue in Fort Worth, a city that I, just absolutely loved um, living in and working in. Um, and so then I found myself in a corporate environment. So, I'm in two almost polar opposite kind of
Mm.
work experiences,
Mhm. Mhm.
but the to have the lessons learned in one and the lessons learned in the other, I think all were, whether I knew it or not, I didn't know it, but preparing me for then this role
Yeah.
that I have now,
Yeah.
again, running this organization and, um, and having the benefit of all that,
Yeah.
um, very individualized leadership experiences, as well as being part of a much larger team
Mm.
and how to work within that environment.
Yeah. What were some of the early challenges as you made the transition to really quasi-governmental organization?
Well, I would say, while it was helpful that I had served on the board of directors for
Yes.
Visit Fort Worth for many years,
Mhm.
um, and thought I knew what I was stepping into from that experience,
Yeah.
there was the awakening moments that, demonstrated, no, wait a minute, there's more to this type of work, this type of organization than
Yeah.
perhaps I'd appreciated. And I so that was, so I had, I was new again somewhere after
Mm,
28 years
yeah.
in an environment. I was new again, and that was freeing
Mm.
because it just, because you're learning again.
Yes. Yes. You get to be a learner
And
instead of a knower.
that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And
Yeah.
so, you can ask all the questions, and you've got new people to turn to learn from.
Mhm.
And I found that incredibly invigorating.
Yeah.
It was just really, it was a very exciting first year,
Mhm.
just from that standpoint alone.
Yeah,
So,
I bet. It's interesting that you're mentioning that because I was talking with a client yesterday or the day before who they're in the middle of a leadership transition and the number 2 is stepping in as interim and is very nervous and hesitant about what that what that means and handling things the right way, and it's an interesting perspective because it could be personality, but when I've been in that situation, as you're expressing, I found so much freedom in it because you can't do that part wrong. I don't think. It's the,
right.
"Oh, where do we get to improve? I'm here to learn. I'm here to absorb," drinking from the fire hose effect can feel kind of overwhelming, but really
Yeah.
you are noticing, you're absorbing, you're integrating information, and you're speaking to possibility,
Right.
which but for people who don't, favor change, perhaps that is shaky ground around they want more certainty.
Well, and I would say, again, reflecting back on the latter half of my tenure at the Worthington when I was working for Marriott,
Yeah.
this is a massive corporation, and you would think that it's kind of hidebound, it's kind of
Mm,
stuck in its way, and that is
mhm.
absolutely not the case.
Wow,
This was a company of innovation. They were constantly looking at, well, how can we do this better?
that's great.
And so we were routinely faced with, um, not in a negative way, I mean,
Mhm,
but just, all right, here's another new system, or here's another way of thinking about it. And,
mhm.
and so challenged to continually respond to that and find a way to take if you will, a corporate or brand developed initiative
Mm,
and have it put into practice in your business unit. And
yeah,
that was, so, yeah. And so that, you know, now, some of that
yeah,
change was easier than others,
yeah,
it was part of life. It was
yeah,
part of what we were doing. And it was, um, so,
yeah,
um, I'm not going to say I am, I'm just thrilled every time something is new and different. I mean, I'm as human as the rest of folks,
sure,
of course.
yeah,
And so there's some things that are harder than others,
mhm,
but somewhere along the line, there's just been, the waves of change have been constant enough that
mm. Get
you,
with
you
the
know, you,
program at some point.
well, you do, you have to understand that, you can be part of it or you can let it happen to you.
Yes,
And, and then within an organization, how do you communicate that? If you're the
that's right,
creator of change within an
that's right,
organization, how do you introduce that to the people
right,
that work with you?
yeah,
How do you support an environment, or a mentality, a culture
mhm,
that says, that we're going to respond to these, we're going to strategically anticipate these things, and balance all of that.
yeah. Well, and to your point, invitations into the process in
Yes.
small ways, in bigger ways that give people a sense of impact and agency, to your point. Is it happen and this is what I say about strategic plans, really, and that's the more I've explored change management, we're working on several change management projects right
Mhm.
now. It's culture, absolutely. It is communication. It's so many of the different types of work that we do through a really business focused lens that is acceptable. A lot of people say, well, we don't have culture budgeted. We budget for change management. really we're talking about the same things.
That's right.
And it's people having agency, people saying, this isn't happening to me. This is something that I'm a part of. I get to inform, and that we're in this together.
Well, and you're right. It's how do you bring people into the process
Mhm.
in a way that helps it accomplish what it's intended to do,
Yeah.
because people understand the desired outcome.
Mhm.
Um, and how do you make sure it's presented in a way that people do not feel victimized
Yes.
by, the process change,
Absolutely.
again, and of course, all of that has to do with, inclusion and great communication about where you're trying to go.
That's right. Well, and that brings up something I've heard you say, this idea that everyone just wants to be known for who they are.
Mhm.
How has that been a part of your leadership philosophy and how you've led?
Well, y- you know, it, I had in the early days at the Worthington, I had been through a couple of facilitated conversations within our leadership team
Mhm.
that spoke to that. And so, and so that was a learning for me, but that phrase that you just cited was something after having been through that.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting at a hotel association luncheon, and Clark Johnson, who was at the time the CEO, chairman and CEO of Pier One Imports, was
Oh, yeah.
speaking to the group. And, and as he was closing his statements, he said, in terms of building a culture and in building a trusting relationship,
Mm,
trust comes from being known,
mm,
and people just that's all they want
wow.
is, to be able to be known without judgment.
Mhm.
And that's where trust comes in in any environment. And
Yeah.
so I've been quoting Clark Johnson for 30 years now, because that just encapsulated some of the things that I'd learned before, but just reduced it to its simplest terms.
Absolutely. And one of the things we try to help organizations and leaders do is focus on their strengths. And I think
Mhm.
that's what this speaks to is everyone wants to be known for who they are, and we need to be known for who we are. We need to know what we do well so that we can present our best selves and talk about openly about, I don't do that thing as well. That doesn't make me less than. It just
Right.
means my strengths are in another area. And so it's people want to be accepted, but we have to accept ourselves too
Yes.
and optimize our work lives and our lives in general for the stuff that we excel at. And that's
Right.
the phrase Clifton Strengths. If we work in our top 5 strengths on a consistent basis, we will achieve world class results every time. And that is just mind blowing and speaks to we all have unique giftings. The top 5 set or the top 10 set or whatever people want to look at, and the order of their strength
Right.
creates really unique profiles of people and really highlights what we can do well in our organizations.
Well, and so much of the conversation around performance appraisal centers on what people aren't successful in,
Yeah.
what they're challenged by.
Mhm.
And it doesn't mean that the other positive attributes or successful attributes are not discussed,
Mhm.
but that's, you know, but,
Often the case.
it's missing the opportunity
Right.
to take what somebody is doing particularly well
Mhm.
and building on that, because that's going to happen in an exponentially greater impact
Absolutely.
than taking things that people kind of naturally struggle with
Mhm.
and trying to turn that into something that it maybe, is, I mean, you're just going to work harder for less of an outcome.
Exactly. Yeah, we're
Same
totally
effort,
aligned.
so
Yeah. Well, and that goes to, and I think that this requires more creativity, flexibility, kind of stamina on the part of the leader to tolerate or to give space for things that people don't do well, spend time identifying what they do, and look at it from the perspective of right person. Okay, like great human, somebody who's motivated, work ethic. If it's the wrong seat, they can look like the wrong person, right? But
Right.
these are two different things. A great human, a great team member, a great collaborator, creative mind, whatever it is, and they may not be in the right seat. And so let's look for those opportunities for partnerships across departments for the
Right.
person to be in an area where they can excel, because if they're motivated and committed and accountable, don't let that go.
That's right.
But think about
That's right.
how to best use their skills.
Mhm.
It takes more work, I think, and more patience.
Well, it does, but I'm, people, these are the main assets of any organization.
Mhm. Right.
It's, and particularly in the service industry, which is where my career has been.
Yeah.
It is a labor intensive
Mhm.
environment. It's a work situation, and so you have to put that kind of energy in because that's that's how the product
Yeah.
gets delivered to the
Mhm.
client.
Mhm.
That's how a team works at its highest level
Yeah.
in collaboration.
Mhm.
When that kind of energy is spent.
Hey, noticers, if you're dreaming of glowing, healthy skin, you must try Hana Azul Korean skincare. Myung Chong has been transforming skin for 27 years with facials so good they create the Hana Azul glow. I've been going to her med spa for years and my skin looks better than ever. Her products use medical grade ingredients that truly nourish your skin and keep it radiant. Visit hennaazul.com to explore her amazing products and services. That's HANNAISUL.com. Now go get your glow. And that speaks to one of the things that you talk about as a leader. It's not about being able to do everything perfectly or knowing everything, but creating the space for other people to contribute and to shine.
Right.
How have you focused on that with your team?
Well, I'm, I don't know, I understood very early on. I didn't have all the answers. I never presumed to have all the answers. I never tried to have all of the answers.
Yeah.
I tried to make sure that we had the right people so that
Mhm.
collectively we could get
Yeah.
to the right answers. And that, and, it's not as simple as that, but you bring people around you and you learn
Mhm.
whom you can give the most latitude and who needs a little bit more of your time and attention
Yeah.
in the course of a day, a week, or a month. And it's calibrating your time and energy around those folks. But the goal is to get them to be able to, you know, use the experience, the expertise that they have and let them put that to work. I don't
Mhm.
have it all. My
Right.
background was not in marketing, but I'm running an organization that is, has a significant responsibility for communication and promotion.
Yeah.
I need to let those people do what they do best,
Mhm.
um, you know, um, so that we can have the right outcome.
Yeah. Well, it's a fine line. You mentioned those areas that we know may not be our background or may not be our strengths. How to how far do you push in terms of learning that area, or I say getting to par? Like if I'm working with somebody that part of their current role is an area of weakness for them, can we get it to par? So we're basically functional, we can speak to whatever the marketing terminology is or
Sure,
the direction, right? So we can still manage those people and not
of course.
right? But no, I don't think you can't exactly say what par is. That's part of the dance.
No, no. Well, I mean, I think for all the years that I've been at it now, I've got a different, I obviously today have a different depth of understanding and expectation around that.
Sure.
Um, you know, um, and that, the same thing in the hotel business was around food and beverage was not my background, but I had to spend time with the culinary team. And this is, and I had, and learn about food costs and what that meant and how you manage processes and how you use people and time and, um, and management of the expenses associated with it. And,
Yeah.
so you do have to, or you get to educate yourself about it along the way so that you can provide proper guidance and counseling. But it's a balance between learning to be in the middle of it or learning to
Mm.
influence and provide guidance and vision and direction for it.
Yeah. Yeah. Setting the vision, removing the blocks, helping people create space to
That's
do
right.
again, what they
That's
do
right.
best. Yeah. Yeah. Very healthy.
Well, and again, and this is part of that time in the hotel business of working for Marriott was understanding that that's the administrative role, the financial role, the human resource role within that business unit, those were all there to support the people and the leaders that were doing the work,
Yeah. Yeah.
interacting with the guests, creating a product, creating experiences,
Mhm.
so recognizing that in a leadership role, it is a support role. And part of that support comes by painting a picture
Mhm.
for people, saying this is where we're going. And it comes and it also is part of finding ways to move obstacles out of the path,
Mhm.
create efficiencies,
Yeah.
create a culture of collaboration. All of those things
Yeah.
help people become more effective at using the tools and resources that they bring to the table.
Absolutely. And being the type of leader who you really have a calm and centered presence that grounds people and anchors people in, I think, more of a long view of what we can accomplish over time rather than so many of us are in such a hurry and we've got to have,
Right.
it's what we're accomplishing this week. And no, those things are important. But the way of being that you bring, I think helps give people a broader perspective of the work.
Well, again, I just somebody else that I've worked with that I admire quite a bit is our recently retired city manager, David Cook.
Mhm.
And I happened to find myself in a presentation his team was making, and so they were running through, we need to do this, we need to do that, and what about this, and what about that, and it was all about a presentation that they were going to do for the city council.
Mhm. Mhm.
And after listening for a bit, David turned to them and said, "We need to slow down in order to hurry up.
Mm.
I realize that we have all of these things that we're trying to get done. I realize that we have these kind of deadlines, but you know, you have to, if you do this all at once,
Yeah. Yeah.
what you really need to get done is going to get lost."
Mm. Mhm.
So, so I, I just, that was an affirmation for me,
Absolutely. Yeah.
that, that doesn't mean there doesn't need to be expediency on some things and just call
Mhm.
for it. It is now, it's in the moment. You have to deal with it.
Yeah.
But many times, you have to
Yeah.
slow down a bit,
Yep.
make sure you have, and do the work
Mhm.
to be ready to.
Yeah. Yeah. And that really expresses to me care and thoughtfulness around the
That's
approach
right.
and
That's right.
prioritization. So, what
That's right.
is highest impact, but also foundational to that will because that slow down, like be intentional right now, because it's going to make a difference. It's going to remove blocks. It's going to
That's
make
right.
our throughputs faster as we
Right.
move forward. Yeah.
And going back to that example, I mean, they had compiled all of the things that council was going to need to know about and decide upon.
Mm,
And David, after making that one statement, said, "What is the one thing that we need them to act on now?"
yeah.
And they said, "Well, this." And he says, "Well, if you bury that in all of this,
Mm-hmm.
you may not get that."
That's right.
So
That's right.
it is
And that
being thoughtful. It
yeah,
is being strategic about how you
strategic.
move forward. Yeah.
Exactly. You have to exercise patience
Yes.
to do that
That,
for sure.
yes.
Was that has that always been a part of your demeanor? Was that something you learned in childhood? Was there a mentor? How have you cultivated that?
Well, it must have been my role in the family because I was one of five boys. And so somebody had to be this, I mean,
Everybody
I
was
don't
freaking
know.
out.
I don't know. You know, I, I don't know. People do, people do recognize that that's part of who I am. And
Mhm.
I don't know where it came from. There was no moment, genetic, you know, I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just, I think it has served me well.
Yes.
And so, but at the same time, I have to have, I have to have somebody around me that is going to make sure that I don't spend too much time thinking.
Mm. Mhm. Mhm.
There's,
Yep. Yep.
I mean, what is a strength can also be a weakness.
Absolutely.
And so, I've routinely found myself by people who are, I may be teaching them how to
Mhm.
slow down
Mhm.
and they're teaching me how to speed up.
Yes. Yep.
So that
Well, that leaning on each other, leaning on the
that's
strength.
right. That's right.
Exactly. And I think that's where the strength becomes a superpower is I know that my way is going to be slower, more thoughtful, and more strategic approach. And I might sit there longer than I should, being more and
Right.
more and more. So there's a limit to when that is useful. And so I know I need people who will question me, who will not let me get exactly what I want all the time because our
Right.
outcome together is going to be better. That's when
That's right.
you're really
That's right.
balancing that and getting into the superpower territory.
Well, and, I've been blessed with having been through nearly every possible form of self analysis, every little you know every um, possible assessment program that's out there. I've probably been through all of them.
Yeah.
They all come back in different ways, saying essentially the same thing. I
Mhm.
mean,
Most
so I've
percent. Yeah.
over all these years, I've developed a pretty healthy understanding of who I am and how I work,
Yeah.
and a pretty healthy understanding of what people appreciate and where I can be, you know, where something I do can get in the way that people don't
Mhm.
necessarily understand. And so I've worked on those as best I can, but just still being aware that they exist
Yeah.
allows me then to identify people around me that can help compensate for
That's
those
right.
things.
That's right. The one of the things I see in your history is navigating change and
Mhm.
doing that in a thoughtful and in a way that produces success. And it makes me think, what would you offer to leaders in a similar position, which is actually all of us now. We're just in a
Mhm.
time of rapid change with technology, with commerce, with everything happening. What have been keys to success for you?
Um, well, it's some level. I think from experiences lived
Mhm.
that there is another side. There is, so
This too shall pass.
we may be at a point of significant change, and there are things that we can influence about it and things we cannot.
Yeah.
This may be a difficult moment in time, and you're faced with a rather large obligation of some sort that is really taxing the organization. Whatever it is,
Yeah.
at some point, it's in the rearview mirror,
Mhm. Mhm.
and so you know, and many times those kind of experiences are the ones that validate your strengths
Yeah.
the best. They
Mhm.
are the most celebrated of accomplishments,
Yeah.
but they're a struggle to get through. And you just
Right.
have to, lean in
Mhm.
and know that at some point we'll have done this and
Yeah.
it'll have, and we'll have given it our best
Yeah.
and we can look back. And so
Yeah.
I
Again,
don't,
that long
I,
view. Yeah. Mhm.
been through economic upturns and downturns.
Mhm.
I would say the most challenging time for me was in the early days of the pandemic
Yeah.
because there were so many things going on and people were looking to me for, where are we going? What are we doing? And, in the future couldn't have been more uncertain.
Yeah.
And, and yet I still felt like not knowing how long,
Mhm.
but there was a point in time where we would be beyond this.
Yeah.
And so, and just continue to have faith in the future and hope
Mhm.
and operate from that perspective.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then do the best you can with what we have today.
And what we can control, exactly
That's
to
right.
your point. Yeah.
That's
There's a
right.
lot of hope and optimism there, but also just tenacity that, belief
Right.
we're gonna, we have the strength and the courage that we need to push through this. There will be another side to it. We'll be on
Hmm.
the other side.
Hmm.
And that's the long view again. I think it's this
Yeah.
like, let's all grow our patience a little bit and be here where we are now, knowing that we will get where we need to go.
Well, and I fully understand that I've been at it for a long time and I have a variety of experiences that help shape and form that for me.
Yeah.
And so even offering that thought, that approach to people that are much younger
Mhm.
and these are their first and second kind of go arounds with whatever it is that the world might be giving us.
Yeah.
Um, that and that's they're still here on their learning curve
Right.
about having a place for that and having
Mhm.
some confidence that that
Yeah,
is really the case.
right. That's true.
So
It can we help
so
them shortcut that? I don't know, you know?
no,
Yeah,
right.
yeah, sitting in. Um, I love to close out inner work with the last bit of wisdom and would offer you to share, um, a book that you're either currently reading or has been really meaningful to you in your life and leadership journey, a value that you live by, and a practice that keeps you doing the inner work. So if you wanna start with a book.
Well, I think the book that I mean, there are two that come to mind, but I think the one that I appreciated the most and that I have handed out numerous times over the years is John Maxwell's 21 Characteristics of a Leader.
Yeah.
And, and it's a great book for a group
Mm,
to work through.
mhm,
It's got great information on it. It's
yeah,
concise,
mhm.
and it's broken into 21 chapters.
Imagine that.
Coincidentally enough. But you can use that for people to, to pick a characteristic,
Yeah.
and to talk about it and to dig a little deeper into it.
Mhm.
And even though some of that is particularly, you would say, oh, well, of course that, and oh, of course this. Um, Important messages bear repeating,
Absolutely.
and
And it
and I say
correlates.
that for myself,
Mhm.
just to
Yeah.
be reminded. to have somebody else frame up what integrity looks like,
Yes.
just reinforces once again, what what that means. So that would be,
It's a great one.
again, it's I just it's a bit of a guidepost, and
Yeah.
and it's a good read the first time, and it's a good read the third time, the fifth time.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like a great thing to explore with a team because
That's right.
what I define as integrity may be different than your definition.
Well, great leads to great conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. That's good. Okay. So, a value that you live by.
Um, well, I think, for whatever I know or don't know, I mean, I mean, what I offer to folks is what I have to offer is credibility.
Mm,
I mean, so that is, such an important part of, I mean, it just influences how I think about this role.
yeah.
We're responsible for public dollars. So,
Mm,
there has to be transparency about how we're doing that. We have a contract with the city to perform
mhm,
functions for them. Am I representing them in the way
mhm.
that we need to be?
Yeah.
I mean, so all of those things, all of those elements that suggest that we are, um, really, I mean, taking our responsibility in that regard
Mhm,
seriously, and that people then view us as a responsible, reliable, credible resource
mhm.
is very important to me
Absolutely.
personally, and then as an organizational leader.
Yeah. That's all we've got.
Right.
Right? Yeah. Yeah. And then for you, Bob, a practice or a habit that supports you in being a leader who continues doing the inner work.
Um, well, however successful I am at this, I would say the best example I can give you is that we are now about 3 years in our new office space. It's an open office environment.
Mhm,
And in the designing of it, they kept looking for the the one room that was going to be my office.
mhm,
And I just, I said, well, why am I going to have an office? Why is nobody else going to have an office and I'm going to have an office?
mhm.
If we're creating spaces for me to get on a phone call or anything. So to me, it's being, all of the supports or as an example of just being available to people.
Mhm. Yeah.
It's not just, I would say we have an open door policy. Well, we don't have doors. So it's, I mean, it's,
You have an open policy.
it's next level open. I
Yeah.
mean, I have an open door policy, but
Yeah.
I just, because I'm out and about a lot, I travel a bit.
Mhm.
And the easiest way for me to still have moments of interaction with everybody is to be right in the center of where everybody's working, and
That's great.
be approachable about that. And
Mhm.
so I just, again, um, I recognize that the spotlight is greatest on me about what's appropriate and
Mhm.
what being in the work environment's supposed to be. And
Yeah.
so I put the spotlight out there in the middle of the room so and nobody can miss it.
That's great. That's a great, great way to be and great example to set.
So,
Awesome.
well,
Well,
thank
thank
you.
you, Bob, so much for joining us on Inner Work. It's been such a joy to get to visit with you and hear more about your way as a leader. So thank you for being here.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity, and, and just, I know you're doing great work and supporting organizations out there that need, the insights and the ability to bring people together in important conversations. So, congratulations to you on everything you're doing.
Thank you so much. And thank you, everyone, for joining us on Inner Work. It's been incredible to have the CEO and president of Visit Fort Worth, Bob Jameson, with us today. Everybody, please like and share our content, and we'll see you soon.